Welcome back to the Waves Business Coaching Podcast. On this week's episode, I interview Casey Jacox. He spent 10 consecutive years as the top national sales producer at a large publicly traded company, not by being the loudest voice in the room, but by being the most curious one. He left his job in corporate America to write his book, Win the Relationship, Not the Deal. And now he coaches executives and sales teams on the difference between being good and being elite. He also has a podcast called the Quarterback Dadcast, which I got to be a guest on. Excellent podcast for dads. And we talked today about some parenting and balancing being really successful at work and caring about that and being competitive with being just as competitive and driven at being a good parent, and also some personal habits that you and I can instill to be the best version of ourselves at work and at home. My book, Master Your First Job, is the remarkable path from first day to first promotion. It's the book that every young employee needs and every employer wishes that they had. You can get that book for free, linked below at masteryourfirstjob.com/free. And you can get the free ebook there with instructions of how to send it to your Kindle. And if you'd like a physical copy, there's a link on there to buy a paperback as well. If you're like me and you'd like to dog ear and highlight and put Post-its and take notes, you're welcome to buy it, but I'm happy to give you a free copy as well. It's masteryourfirstjob.com/free or linked below. Let's dive in to my interview with Casey. Casey, thanks so much for being on the Waves Business Coaching Podcast. I'd love for you to share a little bit about you and your story.
Yeah, you bet, man. Well, thanks for having me on. I'm honored to be here. Well, first, I'm a dad. I'm a husband. Married 27 years to my high school sweetheart. Carrie, got a 20-year-old son who's in college and a 17, almost 18-year-old daughter who's going to be graduating. Cannot believe I'm about to be an empty nester, man. That's really what drives me is my family.
Can't fathom that.
Yep. I'm a. Have you seen Napoleon Dynamite?
Yes.
So I got to give love. Whenever I mention I played football in college, I got to give love to Uncle Rico. So former college quarterback, turned salesperson, turned sales leader. I was a corporate guy for almost 25 years. I would say right guy, right time, right place. But a lot of the lessons of visualization, grit, resilience, mindset helped me achieve really things I didn't think were possible in corporate, which is kind of fun to think back. I left in March of 19. Wrote a book called Win the Relationship, Not the Deal. Started this podcast for dads, where you were an amazing guest as well, called the Quarterback Dadcast. And then the wide world of coaching, executive coaching, sales leadership work, and speaking found me. And now I feel like I'm living my calling. And it is just a great phase of life at the ripe old age of 50, Jacob. And that's me, man.
So you married your high school sweetheart. So this is, you interviewed, we recorded yesterday, transparently, whenever you listen to this, but you got to interview me. So now I have questions about you and your story. College quarterback. Where did you play quarterback? Where'd you go to college?
Central Washington University. If anybody remembers the name John Kitna.
Yeah.
NFL. So Kitna he's a buddy of mine. I backed him up my first 2 years and then started my sophomore, junior, senior year.
There you go. What's the mascot of Central Washington?
The Mighty Wildcats. Where my daughter, who's dealing with a torn ACL right now, she's going to go play basketball at Central Washington next year.
In what division is that? D2. Okay, very cool. My cousin played D3 football, so shout out to the lower division football. And I have a college football podcast, so this is a selfish question. Did you have a favorite play to run? You're a quarterback, so you got to know the whole playbook. Did you have a favorite play?
You want the actual terminology?
Oh, yeah. Give it to me.
Here we go. Zoom to trip stride 334 stretch, Z post, X stop.
Why did you like it?
Well, I like that because it's play action. Zoom was motion. Then I figured out Zoom was I'm motioning from doubles into trips. Now, if the DB goes to them, now I know we're in man.
Yep.
And now I know that there's probably one route. So now I know the post is probably going to be I like to take shots. I also like to play called doubles right now. X, which was a post corner on the double post corners on the outside. So look at me, Uncle Rico. Still remembering 30 years ago.
This is not a football podcast, but I love the use of motion. which I feel like Sark does a lot of motion, which I'm a Falcons fan, so I loved it there and love watching Texas. Penix, there you go. He's a Washington guy.
Yeah.
Lincoln Riley runs a lot of motion. Todd Monken, Browns coach now, he was our OC. He ran a lot of motion. I'm like, there's so much you can do. I feel like you can run the same 4 plays and give the defense 18 looks with different motion that is motion into it, see what they're in. That's very cool. Okay, you have a podcast called the QB Dadcast. Mm-hmm. You asked me a lot of questions about being a dad yesterday. I'm going to ask you one. What's a lesson that you took from your dad or your parents that has either formed the way you are or formed how you've parented now that you've been a dad for a couple decades?
It's their life, not mine. Meet my kids where they are. It's my job as dad is not to get them to do what I want them to do. My job is to get them to do what they really, really want to do and help find their passion and help ignite it.
I love that. Their life, not mine. What's been the biggest challenge there?
I think it's just all part of the journey. I think a challenge just reminding your kids, hey, have things changed, guys? What do you mean, Dad? Well, you told me that you wanted to achieve this, but the work I see you putting in there, it doesn't seem like that aligns with your goals. Have your goals changed? All of a sudden, boom, they're in the gym. Boom, they're on the court. Boom, they're at the driving range. So it's like, I'm not manipulating them. I'm just asking good questions to see legitimately has their goals changed. Because if their goals have changed, I don't want to then keep investing and asking about that. So I think that would be a challenge. But like, I am very lucky. I think our kids are super driven. I think they've seen mom and dad work hard. I always tell people, kids are watching more than they watch more than they listen to you. And the behaviors you show, whether it's everything they watch. And so I think that's one of the things I've really taken to heart as a dad.
I do have a question as a nod to my book, Master Your First Job. What was your first job?
The one that really comes to mind, legit, was probably a paper out when I was 12.
Okay.
Which I loved a paper out. I'm talking old school. Waking up on Saturday mornings, my dad would take me in the back I'd be exhausted. I'd hop in the back of the Oldsmobile, and I wanted to be a paperboy just because the video game Paperboy, and loved to just huck him at the house. And I thought that was always funny when you make a loud noise, but taught me a lot. Taught me accountability. I was on, do my own thing and had to memorize which houses to go to. And then I had to go collect.
Oh, that's fun. Got to go ask for money.
Yeah.
That's a blast. That's a lot of fun. Was it just on the weekends?
No, every day.
Okay, every day. And how early are you getting up for that paper route?
Well, no, so the afternoons was an afternoon route, Monday through Friday. But then on Saturday, Sunday was early. So I had to get up like at 6. And I'm sure my dad, rest in peace, was probably hungover a couple of times when he's getting up to, but he did it, rest in peace, Pops.
He did it.
Yeah.
Something I have now, I've always been very tech friendly and ahead on technology and staying up to date. And I love technology, but man, news and it being all real time and knowing everything that's going on in the world all at once has just driven me crazy. And so I've had a weekend newspaper subscription for almost a year that I'm not trying to bury my head, but I love reading. I love paper. And I was like, I'm just going to try this out. It was my friend's idea and it sounded cool. And I have loved having a newspaper. So I'm like, please keep printing newspapers. It's probably not profitable for these big news companies, but please keep printing them. I'm a big fan. Very cool. A paper route. Not the first guest to have a paper route. So there you go. Casey, a lot of business listeners. You worked in corporate America for a long time. You were a top sales leader for over a decade at a large publicly traded company. It sounds like you had a lot of right going on whenever you were there. Here's my question, almost going back to the dad conversation we had on your podcast, is how did you balance being really successful at work and objectively, like measurable, very successful at work, having a corporate America job, and also being successful at home?
Well, the 3 values that drive me is being the most humble, vulnerable, and curious version of myself. And I have stories for days of how I've like grit, resilience, failure in sports, failure in business. I think that just always grounded me. My football coach in college used to always tell me, Case, whenever you have to tell me how good you are, you're not that good. When you're great, I'll tell you. And so this mindset of like, yeah, I had a good day. Great. Get back in the huddle. Like football. Hey, I had a great month. Great. Get back in the huddle. Hey, I just threw an interception. We lost a deal. Great. How can we learn from it? I think that was the work wise from a home perspective. I think I had the view of just because I was the quote unquote breadwinner and working doesn't mean I don't have to not be a dad when I come home. And just because I was busy at work doesn't mean I can't say, hey, honey, tell me, is there anything I can do? If the dishwasher needs emptied, empty it. Sure, I was smoked from the day, but like the goal is to be a partner and a teammate to my wife and create situations where we can kind of both have tag team the kids. We're man-to-man defense so that, life can be a lot more peaceful for us. So I think that would be like how I did it at home. And then I think just having balance of, when my kids were young, I was the guy that would, leave at 6, get home at 6:45, get in 15 minutes with my kids. And I was like, this sucks. This is not what life's about. And I was a number one rep at the time, like you mentioned, and life was great. Money was coming in, company was making money, but I was miserable. And I remember I went to my boss and I said, hey, Ange, I said, I need your help. This is where being vulnerable is.
Yeah.
And I said, I need some help. She's like, what's going on? I said, I'm not having fun. She's like, what? Why? You're killing it. Your things are great. I'm like, yeah, work wise, I'm having fun, but at home, I'm not the dad I want to be. I'm not the husband I want to be. She's like, well, why? She goes, well, because I'm getting 15 minutes with my kid. She's like, well, leave earlier or leave earlier. I go, I can't. I go, we're not a bank. I can't leave at 5. She goes, why can't you? She's like, why can't you leave at 4? You don't trust us? And I was like, no, I do. She goes, leave at 4. You have an hour-long commute. If we need you, we'll call you. And we know that like if something pops up, you'll answer it. But from 5 to 7, just focus on the family. And once I did that and really checked my ego and realized that I could do this, and then wow, my team started stepping up. Wow, people started creating more opportunities for them. My career went through the roof because it wasn't about me. It was about a bigger cause, a bigger calling, and just trying to make sure I was the best version of me at home and work.
And shout out to your boss, to have a good boss that could see that, could help, which is really cool. But like you said, I think it starts with being vulnerable, because I do believe vulnerability breeds vulnerability. And when you lead with it, it gives someone else permission to be vulnerable as well. And I think there's something to be said too about when you do good work, I think you can ask for a little bit more. And that if you were some bottom dwelling, last in sales rep, whatever, it's probably a little bit harder to ask for something than, hey, when you're doing good work, I think that can solve a lot of stuff. It probably gives you a little bit of leeway to ask, and them to probably want to bend over backwards and say whatever it takes to keep Casey happy. So how was that shift? You start leaving at 4, and was it immediately like that filled the bucket you needed if you get an extra 2 hours at home?
I mean, it was definitely a transitional a bit, but like I would, I was present at bedtime, bath time, dinner time.
Yeah.
But then from like maybe 7 to 8 was Casey and Carrie time. And then after that, I would jump back online afterwards to like clean up email, clean up my CRM, make sure I'm dialed for the next day, have my plan. So then it was just like rinse, repeat. And back to vulnerability though, I want to say is, this is where I learned the power of it, because as the quote unquote number one rep, which who cares, we're all replaceable.
Yeah.
When I was the top of my game, I still was asking for help. I still wanted to get coached. And I think that's what was fun for me and even now the work I do as a sales leadership coach, it's fun to share those stories with people because we all can learn. And one of my favorite leadership mantras I teach my kids and I also teach my clients is that it's okay to say, I don't know, but it's not okay not to do anything about it.
That's good.
And I think like when you can do that, it's powerful to be able to say, because learning's fun, and people say that's not like, I don't believe them, because if we're all a little bit curious, we all like to learn a new skill. It's fun. Just got to put your ego aside.
I'm with you. I'm like, learning is fun. I have been to this point a lifelong learner. I hope I can continue to be, but learning is fun. It does take a little bit of work, which is okay. Work is good. I think we were created to do work, and that we should do good work if we're going to do work. Why not? Right. I work for Chick-fil-A, and Truett Cathy founded Chick-fil-A. Something, my favorite phrase of his was, why not your best? It's a speech he gave towards the end of his tenure before he stepped down. And I just like that. Why not your best? Why not? I think that's a really good mantra.
It's a choice.
It is a choice. You're right about that. And it's not easy to want to give your best all the time either. Okay, let me ask you this. Entrepreneur to entrepreneur, you left and did your own thing. So now you have technically complete control of your time. You get to say you're the decision maker. You can say yes and no to whatever you want. There's people who listen to this podcast who are in that boat of they are the business owner. They are the number one. They're the decision maker. While that comes with a lot of freedom, there's also a lot of responsibility there. And something I struggled with was, okay, technically I could do no work this week and hang out with my kids for 40 hours during work hours. Technically, I'm not going to make any money, So yes, there's the balance of I got to put food on the table. But I also felt the pressure of, oh gosh, early on, like every moment I don't work on the business, I'm losing money. And that every moment I'm not doing something toward, and I'm a solopreneur, but even if you have a team, it's like, okay, like I bring the most value to my business, and every moment I'm not doing something towards it, I'm losing out on money that I could be providing. And that's something I struggled with of, okay, I am the provider for my family and I want to provide, and how can I balance those two things? And I've found a really good balance now, but is that something you struggle with at all when you stepped out and did your own thing versus being in the corporate structure?
I'm sure I'd be lying to myself if I didn't say no.
Okay.
But my mindset when I left was I was so at peace with it, and I didn't have a lot of clarity I knew I wanted to write a book. I knew I wanted to start a podcast. Yeah. But the work I do now, I read a book called The Surrender Experiment that someone told me about, that it was actually really, really powerful and helped me just kind of surrender and really get clear with what my values are that drive me. And the values that drive me is and I just surrendered to keep focusing on that, which is being humble, being vulnerable, being curious, and then just connecting with as many like-minded people. And then the next thing you know, like this next phase of my career kind of happened. So I think for me, I don't want to be the best. I want to be my best.
That's a good word.
And so I think I try to give myself grace that, let's say I'm not my best today. Well, the good news is tomorrow's a new day. I can be better.
Yeah. And there's that football mindset of, hey, interception, you got to go back out next drive. Let's not throw it again. Let me ask you this. I am very results driven, if I'm honest with myself. And this is something I struggle with. How do you measure your values? How do you measure progress in that you are being more humble, you are being more curious? How do you track that and measure it, if you do?
I don't know if I can track, because a lot of those are lagging.
Yeah.
But it's really what my clients say about me. That's probably the best way to say about it. The habits I'm seeing change in my clients, or the habits I'm seeing change in my kids, that's how I measure success. When I'm not my best, do I apologize? Do I own it? And do I walk the walk of what I'm teaching? That's a measurement of success. That's the one thing we all have in common. We're all flawed humans. Even I joked with a client today, the book I wrote, it's 6 kind of these habits, relationship building habits that I used over my career that I still use to this day. And I said, not to be, and this might sound like an egomaniac, but I read the book 10 times, not because, I love my book so much, but it was more about like just the editing process when I did the Audible version. And I told the client, I was like, hey, keep this between us, sarcastically speaking, but I learned from myself, which tells me and you that I'm just as flawed as everybody else, but it's a book of reminders. And so I think like just reminding myself of these types of things and realizing that we're on this. That's why maybe I love golf. It's because you're chasing perfection that you're never going to reach.
Yeah. Good luck.
And golf's hard. Life's hard. Business is hard, but I know I can control my attitude, my effort, how I show up, realizing that once I check my ego and just like, okay, that was not good, but I can be better. That's the way I do it.
You can choose not to destroy your driver on the tee box and hit a cooler with it, or throw it at a volunteer.
There you go.
Not going to call any golfers out, but those two things happened recently. Okay, you mentioned habits. You mentioned that being in the book. I wanted to go there, so let's open that door.
Okay.
You did a lot of amazing stuff. We talked about your corporate job. You're doing amazing stuff now. I think that when you have external results, there's a lot of internal change that preceded that. And, I was mindset, habits, disciplines. What 6 habits did you write about in the book? And how did you see those both transform you and how you work in your life? And how have you seen it help other people as well?
So how I came up with them was through really a word mapping exercise. When I was writing the book back in 2019, I was trying to figure out, okay, so when I was at the top of my game, when I was winning revenue, when I was winning people, like how did I do it? And I literally just made this big word mapping exercise where I wrote down words like But it's humility, follow up, documentation, practice, all these things. And then I circle them and I put them together. And that's how it really came to these 6 things. So through this exercise, I realized that why I had success, and maybe why I've had success through that journey, was I was always brought energy. I was positive. I was always, follow that golden rule. I treat people the way you want to be treated. Second thing, I was always good at setting expectations, realizing that people aren't mind readers. Get ahead of it. If you're going to be late, let them know. If you can help a customer, let them know. If you can't, let them know.
Yeah.
Number 3 was all about the difference between hearing and listening. Hearing is, wait, what'd you say? Like blacking out, looking at my phone, looking at the notifications. Listening is actively listening and then asking follow-up questions.
Yeah.
Sending, which leads right into the next habit, which is around power of documentation. Document what I learned about people, whether it's their birthdays, the company info, the how many kids they got, what sports they like, what's their favorite color, anything that I can use in the future conversations to allow me to drive connection, allows me to ask questions, allows me to make them feel like they're the most important person in the world, will allow me to build a relationship. Habit 5 is about the difference, practicing, but also letting your authentic self shine and keeping our ego checked. And then lastly, chapter 6, the 6th habit is having patience. Meet people where they are. Let relationships form when they're ready to be formed. Just like in selling, if I'm trying to close somebody, they're never going to close. Selling, I think, is about helping someone solve a problem. They're going to close themselves if they need you. And that's not my job to close them. It's their job to close themselves.
Which goes back to setting expectations of if I can solve their problem, I'm going to tell them. And if not, I'll tell them that too, which is, I think, where a lot of salespeople I've encountered fall short, is trying to be the solution that actually they can't offer. And I learned that myself. Early on, I was like, I'll say yes to everything to make money. Mm-hmm. And the more I shifted into saying, you know what, I'm actually not the best person to do that, but this person is. I've gotten business that way of, hey, well, actually, this person needs that. I'm going to refer them to you. And they were thankful that I was like, hey, I'm actually not a good fit, but Casey is. You should talk to him.
Abundance.
That's right. I want to follow up on several of them, but documentation. You said writing down information that you could use later on. Birthdays, what their kids are into. Where did you keep this? And then how did you use it? Was it hey, I know I'm going to see this person today, let me go reference it? Is it because you wrote it down, you started memorizing it? How did you reference it?
So when I was a salesperson and a sales leader, we used a customer relationship management, so CRM. And so I would document it there. And every time I'd talk to somebody, I'd pull up the last time I talked to them, and I'd say, hey, tell me what's changed since we last spoke on April 14th. And I would always use questions to drive the conversation. It was never, hey, I'm calling to check in, which I think that's code for I'm calling to waste your time because I'm not sure what else to talk about. I put it in their phone. I'd put as much information in the contact in the phone. But like an Apple, for example, like when birthdays come up, it says when their birthday is.
Yeah.
And I've yet to meet anybody that doesn't like when you call them on their birthday to say happy birthday, man, I'm thinking about you.
And a call too. I have a friend, I'll shout out Andrew Evans, who is really good about calling on birthdays. Because, everybody posts on your Facebook wall, but a phone call can go a long way. Hearing and listening, which I think is simple on the front end. Are there any habits, methods you had to be a better active listener?
Well, I learned a great way to ask questions, which is using phrases like tell me, explain, describe. I call those TED-based questions. I learned that at age 41. I wish I would have learned it a lot earlier in my life. And I think how I actively listen is by asking follow-up questions. And when they can hear the genuine curiosity and authenticity in my voice, my body language, I'm like, wow, tell me more about that versus tell me more about that. Same words, 2 different outcomes. Eye contact, putting your phone down, be interested, not interesting.
Which goes back to curiosity, which we've talked about. I love curiosity. Yeah, I just came from, I did a workshop this morning at a high school, and my buddy and I went and talked to juniors and seniors in high school about interviewing and resumes and getting a job. And we spent 5-10 minutes on eye contact. We had a high schooler telling us they don't like eye contact and it makes them uncomfortable. I'm like, yeah, sure, you got to have eye contact. I'm like, we talk about how, it shows active listening and it shows confidence, but it's something that the more we encounter young people, I'm like, why is eye contact going away? Like it's looking at another human. There's nothing difficult about that. But
well, with that, what you just said. So on the very, I know I'm trying to self plug here, but this says 6 common sense strategies to succeed in life and business. That's what you're teaching. That's common sense. And sometimes people forget these things. And we have experience. You got to like you have to meet people where they are. And so good on you and your buddy for teaching the high school kids. And it's like, you could judge them, you can make them feel silly or dumb, but like, maybe we ask the question, well, tell me why. Well, and then this is where to create pain. Maybe say, well, tell me how you'd feel if you're going for a job and the person you're interviewing, you're competing with, he or she had great eye contact, and that's why you lost.
Yeah, that's right.
All of a sudden now they want to have better eye contact.
And it's funny. We talk about active listening. We talk about, hey, we told them, hey, it's good to ask a thoughtful question. But how do you know it's a thoughtful question versus what isn't? It was like, hey, if you ask a question that they've given you the answer to already, that's not a very thoughtful question, but if you ask a follow-up we had some good examples and they're like, oh, like, hey, what do you love about working here? I'm like, that's a thoughtful question. It's personal to them. It's related to the job, but we talked about active listening. So like you said, common sense stuff. I need to hear it sometimes. I like that you said you learn from your own book sometimes. It's a good reminder of stuff you've done. I feel the same about my book, and I'm not even the target audience for my book, but I think there's good stuff in there I think that's good when authors can write good reminders even for themselves.
100%.
Energy. This is something that I struggle with is the wrong word. I'm introverted, and I've joked that at Chick-fil-A, there is a Chick-fil-A version of Jacob, and my wife giggles about it. It's just like, you just flip a switch and it's, high energy, optimism, positivity. And it's part of the brand. And you got to do that, especially when you're, interacting with, there's 300,000 team members that, will come visit the office, or we go in the field and we go see them, and it's expected, but it's something I struggle with. Here's what I'm going to ask about is positive energy versus, I say, faux optimism. That is something I struggled with, is optimism for optimism's sake without any teeth behind it. What's the difference there? Can it go too far? Am I just pessimistic, Jacob? Put me in my place here if I'm off here.
I think optimism starts with belief. And which is why this word's behind me, everybody.
That's right. Ted Lasso.
Yeah, when you believe what you do matters, and you believe in your team, you believe in your company, you believe in your product, you believe in your manager, you believe that you have what you do solves a problem, then why wouldn't you be optimistic about it? And I always say I'd rather be a naive optimist than a negative realist. It's a lot easier to say what I can't do or what I should do, what I have to do, and I'm just more of a either I will or I won't guy. That's a lot of the work I teach my clients is like, one of the most powerful muscles that we never exercise is our mind. We love to exercise, but we don't like to exercise. We love telling ourselves stories that don't exist. We love it's easy to be the victim. But
very easy.
Every person in this life, we get 1,440 minutes a day. No one gets more, no one gets less. It's up to us to use them as much as we can. So like when I hear people say, man, I don't have time. Yeah, you do. you do have time. Instead, just tell yourself, I'm choosing not to use that time. So I think back to optimism I think it's a mindset shift. Now I think how maybe I'm hardwired that way. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know the actual clinical reason, but like I'm very competitive. I have a lot of belief, not arrogance, but it's belief. I think when you know what you do works and you have stories to back it up, why wouldn't I go meet people and share that? And I like to see, and maybe again, it's the quarterback in me too. It's, hey, 3rd and 8, we got this. I'm trying to look at 10 other guys in the huddle and have this confidence and still believe that we can do this. That's just maybe where it comes from.
Well, and you hit the nail on the head too of, I think there is a difference in it's 3rd and 8. I've never played with these 11 players before. We're meeting for the first time and getting in the huddle, and I believe we can do this, versus we have practiced this 20 times. It's 3rd and 8. We know what play we're running. Mm-hmm. Let's go execute it. Like that to me that is optimism with like belief and purpose, and you have a plan, versus just like hope. I think is the other one. I'll kind of wrap us up with this. Donald Miller interviewed Pete Carroll, another Seattle guy. And something he said he was the most optimistic person he's ever been around was Pete Carroll. And he asked him, like, do you believe you're going to win every game? And he's like, I really do. He's like, well, what happens when you lose? Because no one ever goes undefeated in the NFL. It hasn't happened since 1972. And he's like, I'm shocked every time, like every time he loses. But he talked about how it's because they prepare as if they're going to win every week, and they have a plan to win every week, and they try to execute as if they're going to win. And so I'm like, that to me is an optimism I can get behind, is an optimism that has been prepped for. And, they were preparing to win because they believed they could. And I'm like, okay, that is something I can better get behind. And like, optimism is not just blank hope, it's belief in something that you've prepped for. It's belief in some proof. It's belief in other people that you trust. And I'm like, that's where I have started to practice optimism, is getting more in the Pete Carroll optimism, which I can definitely get behind.
Well, you just said a word that is key: practice. Most people don't practice what they do; they wing it. Salespeople they love winging it. So then I joke people. I said, imagine if you met your customer and you said, "Hey, it's Casey with the ABC Company. I got to be honest with you. I don't care. I don't know what you do. I don't really care. I actually parked in the handicap spot. Sorry about that, but it was the closest spot. My boss is really putting a lot of pressure on me. I need to get some business. So can you give me all your deals and exclusive? And then I'm not going to follow up. But tell me, does that sound like a good idea? Now, I'm being obviously psychotically sarcastic.
Yeah.
But sometimes all these bad habits that we do, that's the version of ourselves we put out. But to your point about the Pete Carroll thing, that's when you practice and you know what you know because you have belief and conviction and you've done the reps. That's why pilots, they practice all the time. People in theater practice all the time.
Yeah.
But whether you're in anybody can practice. I truly believe that. Like, I don't care if you're in finance, custodian, barista, any job requires practice. And that's in our control. So I hope that it's one thing people take from this is slow down, look yourself in the mirror and say, man, tell me how I can practice self. What can I be doing differently or better?
I love it. I was going to ask you one takeaway. I think practice is a good place to land. You can always practice what you're working on and better your craft. And that goes back to one of your values of being humble and curious. And I think practice has to do with both. Casey, where can people find you, connect with you, buy your book perhaps?
Yeah, thanks for asking, man. The book is on Amazon. It's in paperback, Kindle, and Audible. I narrated it myself, which was something I always really enjoyed doing years ago. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I love connecting with people. If you do want to connect with me, let me know where you found me. If you heard me on Jacob's podcast, then we can make sure we're measuring success together of our time today. And one thing that you'll find about me is I love helping others, and I love connecting people, and I don't keep score. So if you want to connect, I'd love to learn more about you and see how we can help each other.
I love it. You don't keep score. The quarterback does not keep score. Not with everything. Casey, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
You bet, man. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you all for watching and listening to this episode of the Waves Business Coaching Podcast. Take care.